One of the most critical parts of your hike is going to be your boots. Notice I didn't say shoes. What I highly recommend are good ankle-high boots. I don't recommend tennis shoes. First of all, tennis shoes are going to feel great for maybe the first few miles, but what's going to happen is you're going to be stepping on pointed granite, and that is going to start to fatigue your foot, it's going to fatigue your body. The worst thing of all, though, is when you go up those cables. The cables have been there over 90 years, and the path between the cables is really worn smooth. So you want a good grip on the bottom of your boots. I prefer an ankle-high boot because the trail is wilderness, it's rugged, you're going to be stepping on loose gravel and rocks, and you might sprain an ankle. So I recommend ankle-high boots. And when you go shopping for boots, here's a couple tips for you. There are many good brands. I would not recommend clipping out the coupon in the Sunday supplement and going to get a pair of big box boots for 15 bucks. I know there's an investment involved in hiking, but I really think this is where the rubber meets the road, your feet. So your feet definitely have to be well protected on the hike. When you shop for boots, get a good rigid boot. Try to bend the toe back to the laces. As you see in this particular brand, can't do it. Also try torquing down the shank. You want a good solid shank. Depends on your own personal preference on the lacing. A very critical part though is make sure the toe box is big enough, because the Half Dome hike is half downhill and you do not want to be banging your toes at the end of your boots. Now if you do that, what's going to happen is you're going to start to curl up your toes because you need that extra room. And worst case is your toenails, if they're keeping to hitting the bottom of your boots, could actually turn black, and yeah, they could even fall off, so not too fun. So when you buy your boots, I would recommend that you go to an incline board and just test them to make sure that they're big enough. Now let's talk about your feet a little bit. If you're practicing your hiking, doing a lot of training hikes, you're going to know where your hot spots are. A hot spot is any place where your boot is rubbing your shoe and it's just not feeling right, and could turn into a blister. Now blisters are caused by heat, friction, and moisture. What I'm going to recommend will alleviate those problems. So the first thing I recommend is if you do have a hot spot, don't tough it out. Don't be strong about it and let it turn into a blister, because when that blister pops, it could get infected and it's just going to be a miserable day for you. So I recommend covering it with a blister pad. They're available at any drugstore. Product like Moleskin is great. In fact, bring that along with on your hike so you can cut a little piece of it if you start to develop a hot spot. The second thing I recommend is go ahead and lubricate your skin of your feet with any sort of a product like Vaseline petroleum jelly is what I used to use in the old days. Vaseline, unfortunately, takes a long time to wear off. So I'd recommend some sort of a product like Body Glide is a good product that's sold, rolls on like a deodorant. And what it does is it reduces chafing. So any chafing product, runner's lube or products like that, I go ahead and lubricate the bottom of my feet, the tops of my feet, any place that I don't want to develop a blister. So that's part one. Part two, what I recommend is put on a thin liner sock. Now this liner sock should be silk or any synthetic fabric. In fact, you really don't want to wear any cotton on this hike because cotton will absorb your sweat, and remember, heat, friction, and moisture, so we don't want that in our boots at all. So a thin liner sock, and I top that with a mid-weight sock. The point of this is you're rubbing material against material, not against your skin. So products like wool is great, it doesn't absorb water. So whatever your training hike reveals, and most of the suggestions I give you are just suggestions. Do what works for you. So when you put your boots on, lace them up, get them nice and snug. And if you wear orthotics, absolutely put orthotics in. And I'd highly recommend that you get one of the sole inserts, a cushiony foam type of a product. But you got to do your training hikes. That's when you will find out if the boots that you got are good enough for a 16-mile round-trip hike up Half Dome. So think about your boots when you go out hiking.